Well, this has been definitely a summer for the books for 49ers fans as this ongoing drama just continues on. Now, obviously, we understand what's going on off the field with players like Brandon Ayuk and Trent Williams. There's rumors swirling all over the place. You guys have asked me not to talk about it anymore, so I'm not going to. So let's talk about a different wide receiver. Let's talk about Ricky Pearsall. So this is a guy, obviously, the 49ers drafted in the first round was met with a lot of differentiating opinions based on the fact that some people believed it was a reach and all these different types of things. But I think the consensus was after we got into the tape, we learned a little bit more about Ricky Pearsall. We could see the vision, we could understand, and we could rationalize the draft pick. But unfortunately for Ricky Pearsall, he has been injured 3 times since being a member of the San Francisco 49ers. He will now miss the entire preseason with a shoulder injury. And, people are wanting to know what is going on with Ricky Pearsall. Well, we just found out some interesting information. And I'm just curious to know if this changes your opinion on Ricky Pearsall or anything like that. But essentially, you had Mike Silver go on KMBR and say that yeah, Ricky Pearsall has a shoulder injury, and this isn't the first time that the 49ers have heard about this. This is actually something that they knew before the draft and has been something he's been dealing with for a while. And there are concerns that this could continue throughout his career. So I'll play a little bit of the soundbite so you can hear directly, and then we will react to what was said on the other side. Take a listen right here.
And then the other component of that is Pearsall, who looked amazing the 1.5 practices he was actually healthy since they drafted him, but has a shoulder thing that is now recurring and I think worrying over the long haul, something they knew about before they drafted him and were hoping wouldn't be a thing. He had a hamstring thing pretty early. So if you knew Pearsall was going to be out there and looking like he looked in practice, that would also factor in. So, you're basically either going to end up with Brandon Ayuk is the second highest paid person on this team of stars, pending what happens with Trent, or he's gone and they tried to replace him for this year, or maybe they couldn't, but they're moving on and, they'll figure it out after the season. I don't know which outcome is healthier for them long term. I understand why fans want them loaded up for the short term, but clearly this hasn't been easy.
Obviously, this is not what you want to hear regarding Ricky Pearsall. You want him to be able to get out there on the field and be available. Again, I think the thing that stands out the most is the fact that this sounds, again, this is being reported from Mike Silver. It sounds as if this is something that not only was pre-existing before the draft, but has there's actual concerns for how long it could play into his career potentially or this year or and that's just something where you just kind of scratch your head a little bit and you're like, well, all right, if we're going to play this game and we're going to we'll pretend because we don't know if this is the truth or not, and if Ricky Pearsall did have some pre-existing injuries that had potential to linger throughout his career, if that is the case and that is true, it would make you question a little bit the thought process behind it because we saw the San Francisco 49ers do a very similar thing by going out and drafting Javon Kinlaw. Now, Javon Kinlaw had a ton of upside, but he had pre-existing knee issues. Those knee issues caught up with him and basically took away his first 3 years of his career. So now we find ourselves in a very similar situation. The 49ers took Javon Kinlaw to replace a defensive tackle in DeForest Buckner. And it does appear the San Francisco 49ers drafted Ricky Pearsall to replace one of the 2 wide receivers that are currently on the roster, whether Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk. And the biggest thing and the biggest issue so far with Pearsall hasn't been ability, it's been availability. And if we are now talking about a particular injury that has some potential to be a lingering one and a long lasting one, and one that could potentially be re-aggravated and re-injured. That is a bit of a concerning situation because, as I've said before on this channel and discussed in many times, like, I'm not concerned about Ricky Pearsall, the player, the talent, the athlete. It's the health. It's that. And he had a pretty strong bill of health through his first 5 seasons in college. He didn't miss a single game. So that's pretty solid. But so far, here we are in the NFL, and he's missed his first 3 preseason games. So again, this could be something to be worried about. This could be a whole lot of nothing. So I'm curious to know what your interpretation is of what Mike Silver is saying. What do you think the serious nature is of this? And again, it continues to put a spotlight back on this Brandon Ayuk situation. It's like, man, if you have a wide receiver who you drafted, who you have potential long-term concerns about in regards to durability, and yet you have a guy right here in Brandon Ayuk who's probably missed a game and a half, what feels like just a game and a half over his, first 4 years with this team. What are we doing? So I if there was anyone, you know, I'm less concerned about like Ricky himself. Like, obviously, injuries happen. You can't necessarily control those things. So it's more of an unfortunate situation, unfortunate luck for Ricky. The questioning becomes, and was this known information prior to the draft? Was it known that there could be a situation where this was a lingering injury that could potentially rear its head at a bad time, and they were just being hopeful that that didn't happen? That's where you're kind of like, man, I feel like the 49ers have been down that road before, taking a player with a pre-existing injury concern, hoping that it wouldn't be something, and then it turning out to be something. Um, so not the greatest news, but I would say that's par for the course for this particular offseason. So let me know what you guys think about this. Concern, no concern. Let me know in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe from Russ.